Welcome, chocolatiers. Welcome back to another video today. And today's video I want to cover a little TV show that I really like called Mayor of Kingstown. Now, I might be one of the only reviews of this show on the platform, which is very rare. I don't really see anybody covering it or talking about it or whatever like that. And I know it's a Paramount Plus show, and I know it's like known as what I like to call the old man streaming service, because you got all your NCISs up on there, like your CBS programs. I think Yellowstone's on there now. I think it was on Peacock. They're both on the same platform. Streaming's been doing that lately. But this is like the old man platform. And if you don't know what Mayor of Kingstown is, it's basically a show starring Jeremy Renner, where he is the person in question, the mayor of Kingstown. And this place called Kingstown where he's at, there's like a lot of crime, like a lot of stuff like with gangs and like, affiliates of criminals and this and that. And he basically works hand in hand with the prison system. And so, for example, if one group wants something and another group wants something, he'll try to bridge the gap so that a way innocent people in Kingstown won't get hurt. And so even though he's doing bad things to meet an ends, he's technically in a way a good guy. And it's like lesser of two evils is kind of like how I would say that his character is. And so in season 1, you kind of start getting this build-up tension because he's basically new to the scene because his brother was the mayor of Kingstown. And after something happens to his brother in episode 1 of the very first season, he's sprung into this. And so season 1's more of like a kind of getting your shoes fit type of deal, setting up things, going from things. And season 1 really ends with a bang. And season 2 kind of opens up a little bit more, and it's more exploring those pathways. But like I said in here today in this review, we're talking about season 3. Now, before I talk about season 3, I want to give my rankings for season 1 and 2 as far as my scores go. I think season 1 is a perfect season. I actually give it a 10 out of 10, which is very rare for me as far as TV shows go, because sometimes I get a little bored. I was like edging my seat sitting down. Now, season 2 took a little bit of a step down because it kind of did the thing that Taylor Sheridan likes to do. Now, if you don't watch his shows, then I'll explain what he does. So, for example, in Yellowstone, that's a show that he writes and helps direct every now and then. But I know he writes on it for sure. He does like the white man's Tyler Perry is what I should say. That's what Taylor Sheridan is, except he still writes good. Kind of like how Tyler Perry used to make good shit, now he makes bad shit. Taylor Sheridan's scaring me because he's starting to kind of get. I was like, you're doing a little too much. And so like how Tyler Perry make 1 or 2 projects a year, sometimes 1 a year, Taylor Sheridan was doing the same thing, but after Yellowstone's popularity, you got spinoffs, you got 1883, 1923, and it's getting to where he's making like 4 to 5 shows a year. Like they even showed an advertisement during the finale of this saying that Tulsa King's coming back on. That's a show I really like. And that's a show that kind of falters because of the writing, and that's pretty much because he just puts in this filler where, and it's funny how he does it. It's almost like I trick you type of filler. So it's not like a CW Flash where like you just spend a whole episode with a different character that matters not to the plot, just to like whatever fill a void, or he'll fight like a random villain that has nothing to do with anything that's going on. This show will have all the main characters do stuff that pushes the plot forward, but instead of pushing it a mile, it pushes it like a ½ inch. And it's almost like he has a way. It's like he knows how he wants to end the season, he knows how he wants to start it, but he's like, damn, I gotta fill out this many episodes. And this season has an increase in episodes. It's went from 8 to 10. And that's why, like I said, season 2, I guess I would probably give like an 8.5 because of that filler stuff. And so with this season, you have Mike McCluskey, who is played by Jeremy Renner, like I said before, and he is, once again, there's really no plot as to what he's doing. Like there is, but his character is just kind of doing, what he's been doing, right? And so you have all these other characters because there's this one guy in SWAT who's been there since the first season. He was kind of like missing a lot from this season, but you have the DA who wants him because there's something that he did in the past at this riot, where like, for example, he would run up on prisoners and just basically shoot them. And so, like they were saying, even though they are awful people, they're prisoners, a lot of them were basically innocent, like, hey, holding their hands up, whatever, and he just shot them. And that's what he does, okay? And so you've got that angle going on. You've got the main thing going on because you have a Russian side angle, where you have characters basically moving into Kingstown, taking over, doing what they're doing, and I was loving it, right? I really just want to talk about the last few episodes in particular, though, because I think those are the most important. So this show sets up something kind of crazy going on with certain gangs and characters buying guns, and kind of using them to go to war. And it does this thing where it kind of like, doesn't necessarily retcon, that's the wrong word, where it kind of pivots, because Mike has a bad relationship with all these people because at the end of the day they are all criminals. But there are so many scenes where he will literally just be talking to, like, because there's one criminal named Bunny. Fan favorite of the show, at least for me. I really like Bunny. But when Bunny does some crazy shit and Mike gets him in his face, Bunny's like, I'm cutting all ties with you, basically, right? And this happens, it's happened last season, it's happened a lot in the first season. First season was more kind of funny, and I was like, okay, I believe it, because it's kind of like a more like, oh man, like, I'm still a criminal, like, you can't trust me. But in this season, it was more of like, hey, we just want to start conflict. Like, that's the only reason why it was written like that. And you have characters that do really weird things. So, like, the DA, like I stated before, she wants to go after people that are stopping criminals. And I get that's kind of believable, but, like, you literally are living in a town where the mob has now moved in. It's like the fucking Sopranos out here. You have people shooting people in the streets and stuff like that, and you want to go after a cop that's killed people like that? I just feel like we're playing ball in the wrong courts, man. I feel like the show has realized that they've created way too many villains, and now they're trying to make villains out of people that I feel like wouldn't, like, it doesn't make any sense. Because even like Mike, Mike's done some bad things, but I feel like he's done bad things for good. Like in season 1, he protected this one girl named Iris, who's in this season as well. And, he kills a bunch of, these gangsters, like these white supremacist people, and he kills a bunch of them. And, that scene was pretty awesome, because you're sitting there thinking, you're like, wow, you're like, that's badass. You're like, yeah, he murdered these people in cold blood, but, he did it for a good reason, he's protecting the girl. And I just feel like this season kind of like does the weird thing where they start to do that CW shit where they spend time on characters that are hardly in the show. So Mike has a brother, another brother, not the one that was the previous mayor of Kingstown. And that brother, he has a wife. And his wife, barely in first season, second season she's pregnant. She has a baby, but once again, she's like barely in the show. Like it actually was weird. That was a complaint from season 2 that I had, where I was kind of like, this man had like, Kyle's got a wife and like she's barely in it. It's just weird because like, why? Like, I feel like that's a character you didn't have to write in. He could have just been single, and she takes the forefront in this season, at least in the middle episodes. So around, I want to say like 3 to 6, right? She has this big arc where she goes to this prison, a female prison, and this guard gets up in her face and kind of makes a pass at her, almost to the point where it's like, okay, he's dangerous, he might do something to me. So she goes to Mike, does this whole thing, and I was really liking that, but then as soon as her storyline ends, like at episode 6 or 7, they kind of just cut her again, and she just doesn't show up again. And that's my problem with this show, is that it's kind of getting to like that Avengers problem, and I know it's a weird comparison, but it's not really, because, hey, Jeremy Renner is Hawkeye, where there's too many characters, because, Mike is the main character, so he's showing up all the time, but then you've got like 2 cops, where one cop, because there's a black cop and a white cop, the white cop is now like kind of like the main cop, so now you got them. I hate them blanking on names, I'm sorry, by the way, but like you've got those 2, then you've got Kyle, who is Jeremy Renner's brother, and then now you kind of threw in the wife again, because I was kind of like fine with it in this season where I was like, okay, I guess she's barely up in it, but like, nah, you made her a character. And then you've got, the mob people, the bad guys, all sorts of stuff. Then you got people in the prisons, and like, you just got all these storylines. And like a lot of them don't get branched because a lot of episodes are spent just kind of like piddling around, fucking around. Somebody did something, and it's just kind of like, I feel like you could have closed off these storylines a whole lot better. But with that though, this show is still very enjoyable. It's got amazing performances from Jeremy Renner and the cast and crew. Actually beautiful shots, which I don't see a whole lot of people talking about, but I really feel like Taylor Sheridan knows how to get those angles perfectly, especially if you watch like Yellowstone and stuff like that. I know the whole last season of Yellowstone got a whole lot of complaints because it felt like a filler season, but even then there's still so much like just beautiful shots. And I was wondering how he was going to do this show because it's set in a city as opposed to like, the West, like all of his other shows. But the way he conveys like this city to be very huge but also very small, because they really only go to a handful of locations in this show, but it still feels like it's such a big world, and I really do like the way that feels. And with that, I think I'm going to give Mayor of Kingstown Season 3 a 7.5. I do hate that it keeps dropping for me as far as the show goes, but I think it had a banger finale. I actually would give the finale a 9 out of 10. I think the finale was very awesome, but the finale doesn't make up for, 3 or 4 episodes that were just kind of, alright, 7. But I think 7.5 is a good score for this show. I think overall, I would give the whole show as a whole, I would give it about an 8.5. I think the whole show is very, very good. I just hope that for next season we can go back to Season 1's quality, because Season 1 was literally a 10 out of 10 in my books. I think Season 1 is awesome. I think it's brilliant. And I just hope we can get a little bit of tighter writing. But outside of that, I hope that you guys like this video. Please subscribe for more, and I will catch you guys on the next one.
We know what this guy's capable of. He's back for a reason.